While you were watching something else, JP put this out there into the X-verse, and it's intriguing. The Red Sox and Cardinals have had recent communication about Nolan Arenado, source says. If trade talks move forward, they could have implications for Alex Bregman's market. Of note, Cardinals exec Chaim Bloom has close knowledge of Boston's prospects. This is for certain because he likely drafted many of those prospects. Let's talk about this. We thought that if there was a deal involving Nolan Arenado, it would have happened by now because the Cardinals put it out there that they were looking to move him. We learned of the list of teams that Nolan would approve a trade to shortly thereafter, yet there's been a stalemate. Do you think this circling back with the Red Sox is real, or is this just smoke?
No doubt.
You say
it's real.
Okay.
And I think it's real because it's a team Nolan would go to. And they're at a standstill with the Cardinals. You got to bring him back to camp, and him and John Mozeliak have to look at each other and figure it out. So, yeah, I think it's real. The Cardinals don't want to bring him back to camp. What are you going to do with Nolan Gorman, who has to play? And you basically have soured the waters with this relationship. You got to move him. And the Red Sox are a club that he would move to.
Well, the productivity in terms of power came down last year. Nobody's doubting that this is still an elite player, let alone third baseman. How would it look with Nolan Arenado at Fenway? Well, it would necessitate a move with somebody because this is the lineup as it stands without Nolan in it. Rafi Devers would likely move somewhere, first base. Tristan Casas would move somewhere, DH. I think it would evolve lineup to lineup, day to day, series to series. It would give Alex Cora a big new weapon, and it's really something to dream on if you're a Boston Red Sox fan. That guy, that bat with that left field wall, pretty fun stuff to think about.
Look, the Cardinals' first baseman has gone to New York, Goldschmidt. Casas was drafted by Bloom. All right, he knows him. That's one of his guys. So you got to have first baseman. If Nolan goes there, they want to move Devers to first. You got $300 million invested in a guy you know is not going to play third forever.
Right.
So it makes sense. So it's a matter of them figuring it all out. The one thing, when you start hearing players say, I'll move to first base to get out of here. That's what he said about going to San Diego. Yeah. Let me out. I'll play first base. I know they got Manny. I'll move to first. A Hall of Fame worthy Gold Glove third baseman said, I'll move to first.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
I really thought that if there was a trade for Arenado, it would be to one of the three Southern California teams, being a SoCal native and knowing where he'd like to play. But this makes a lot of sense, too. And I agree with you completely. You can't open camp with him there. You make a move. I mean, neither party seems satisfied with the relationship at this point. So we'll see how that plays out.
And Fenway Park is perfect for him.
Yeah.
He'll be hooking balls off that monster all day long.
40 to 50 doubles easy in that ballpark.
Yeah.
So the other part of JP's X message had to do with what this would do in terms of impacting the Alex Bregman discussions, which are ongoing, mysterious, and hard to follow. Bregman is still out there as the biggest remaining free agent, and Astros GM Dana Brown commented on a possible reunion last night.
We're continuing to have internal conversations because he's still available, and we're just wondering when he's going to make a decision. But the fact that he's available, we still have conversations about it. I have not talked to Boris recently, but we are still having conversations internally, and then I'll leave it at that.
We could, there are a ton of things there we could read into, but if you take the comments by Dana Brown at face value, they're still open to discussing a return with Alex Bregman. We're led to believe that he and his camp were holding out for a 7th guaranteed year on the contract. The Astros, their offer seemed to be a ceiling offer, right? I don't see Jim Crane approving one of these go-backs for the extra year. So I myself am skeptical that he returns to the Astros. I think that the next deal is somewhere else. What do you think?
He's getting to the point where he doesn't know where else to go. We're getting there. One thing Dana said, when he's going to make up his decision, he was talking about Bregman, right? When he makes his decision. In other words, it's not on us, which we've been well aware of. But Dana says that when he makes his decision, but we're still having internal conversations. The conversation they're having is, okay, the money's still on the table. What happens if he comes back? Plan B, C, everything else. But it's not. He hadn't talked to Boris in, what, 2 weeks or longer?
Yeah.
That's not good.
And that's among the things we could read into this. It's that our offer is out there. It's not changing.
Right.
And now it's on the player and the agent to decide if they want it or not.
Now, we do know one thing. When Boris has the scent that his player is going to a certain team, he locks in. And that deal's done. Boom. He locks in. If you haven't talked to Boris and this offer's been out there and your client still doesn't have anything out there and you still haven't talked to Scott, it doesn't sound good for the Astros.
So you mentioned something interesting there. You talked about, the front office meeting with Plan B, C, what if he does take the offer? And one of the other shoes that'll drop here is what that means for Jose Altuve, who said earlier in the offseason that he'd be willing to consider a move to the outfield if it could accommodate a return with Alex Bregman. Manager Joe Espada on that part of the story.
We have been working in left field for the last couple of weeks, but he continues to take ground balls. I'm not going to commit to a number of games, but that's something that we are looking at to create some flexibility, put players in a position to succeed other players that we could, take care of. We could take care of the baseball, keep guys healthy, have a more balanced lineup, offensively. Those are things that we are looking at, and that's what we are considering putting Jose, getting some time in left field.
All right, so Jose Altuve maybe plays left field with or without Bregman, because there was this by Brian McTaggart. Yordan Alvarez, of course, started 53 games in left last year, and Espada wants to dramatically reduce that this year. A help to that would be Altuve out there if he can play left field. But maybe they do that anyway, if what Brian McTaggart is indicating is correct. So I think it's an interesting discussion here.
Yeah.
If you dream on what Jose Altuve would look like as a left fielder. So one of the things we were asking Keith Costas for today was, what have the returns defensively been like for Altuve? He won a Gold Glove at that position, Keith. What's it been like recently, and do the numbers say it's time to get him out of there?
Well, you're not going to have to read too far into these numbers if they're numbers that you buy into. The last 3 seasons, dead last in the majors among second basemen and defensive runs saved each year. And you put it all together, negative 41. That's the worst among any player at any position over the last 3 years. Now, that does seem a little harsh to me. StatCast numbers were a little more friendly to him in 2022 and 2023. But last year, right in line with what DRS said, he was a bottom 5% of the league in terms of outs above average. So I'm a little bit skeptical that these numbers are quite that harsh, but when you see those 3 lasts and the StatCast numbers seeing the same thing, it certainly gives you a reason for pause.
It's hard to avoid those numbers. I mean, you might not trust the defensive metrics. I know you're skeptical of that stuff. You like the eyeball test when it comes to defense, but dead last 3 straight years it's hard to get off of that.
Well, you got to remember, he had the yips, the one stretch. So that's going to affect your numbers, no doubt. But I thought last year he got that confidence back and he was catching the ball. And he's turning the pivots still. So I still think he's a very serviceable second baseman. The problem here is the Astros front office is very sabermetric-minded. They believe the DRS. So they're trying to move him. And it may not be Dana Brown, it may not be the manager. It's the think tank in the front office that is weighing in and saying, look at the numbers, here's where it is, let's move him. I believe he's gone. I think he's going to left field. And I think even if Bregman comes back, he's going to second. We've all talked about, they'll trade. Now they got Paredes you can move. Why? They're going to move Bregman to second base. I think that's the internal conversation. So if he comes back, Bregman's going to second. If Altuve, who's working right now on fly balls, why would he be doing that if he wasn't going to move? There's never a time when somebody says, hey, I might change positions and not go out and work at it.
Well, maybe Jose Altuve, who we've only known as a second baseman, becomes one of those guys that plays everywhere.
I used to be one of those other guys, Matty.
That's right, D-Row. You were one of those guys.
That look was in your face somewhere. I think this is all about Alvarez, to be honest with you.
Keep him off his feet a
They
little bit.
want to put him at DH.
Yeah. You need 150-plus games with him in the lineup, regardless of where it is.